Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Fuel the Fire. I am Pastor Kevin. I'm the pastor at Church of the King Kinder. This is my wife Tabatha, and this is our guest Jared and Amanda Langley. So, we're going to start off tonight. We're going to dive right into it. We're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about parenting and resolving conflict between a marriage, between a husband and wife. So, the Bible, it states, train a child up in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That's not like a definite, it's going to happen if you do this, but it is a good principle that we should all work off of. So I want to start it out, the discussion with, I believe when it says train a child up in the way that he should go, like it's not do as I say. I think we should be role models. We should be leading the way for our kids to follow. So, what is some ways that like we this plays out in our life?
Mhm.
I know for us, the way we handle things is, especially back from being raised in a godly home, having pastors for parents.
Hashtag dad.
Yeah, being PK kids. You kind of
Hashtag.
you kind of know like, okay, here's the guidelines, and it was a whole lot stricter than it is now. So we had rules, we had guidelines, but it was more than that. It was kind of just a way to follow, right?
Yeah.
It was they point you in a way, and you know right from wrong. You kind of and you learn how to discern what was good, what was bad, what was good for you, what wasn't good for you, and if it's not good for you, then there's some thoughts that go. You have a thought process, right? Like, okay, well, if I do this, there's going to be some type of consequence for it, whether good
Mhm.
or bad. So, as parents, one of the biggest things that I took away was trying to teach our kids that before you do something, think about it. Think about what's going to happen if you do it. If you say this, if you do this, what's the consequences for that? Are they going to be good? Are they going to be bad? How will it influence other people? Because at the end of the day, we teach our kids to be leaders.
Yeah.
We want our kids to be leaders.
Mhm.
Well, but like even for me, like teaching my child is one thing, but my child should be able to look at my life
Mhm.
and be able to see
Mhm.
that this is the way my dad was walking. He was in church. He was in the Word of God. He was praying. He was doing this, and he was encouraging me to do it all at the same time. They had a friend of mine, one time, and he told me, he said, "I hope my son walks with God when he's older." And I said, "He probably won't." The guy got so mad at me, and I'm like, "Dude, you don't even go to church on Sunday morning. Why would you expect your child to?"
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, you got to lead by example.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think that starts with the fathers. As fathers, you have to lead from in front. You are the head of your household. So as a father, not just professionally, um, I want my kid to strive to be better than me. I want him to look at me and say, you know what, my dad was a good man, he was a good father, like he was successful, and that I want to be like that. I want to emulate him with the way that he sees me talk to people, the way he sees me talk to his mom and everybody else.
That's brings up something good. Like even in our communication with our wives, like
Mhm.
if our kids see us putting down our wives, putting down, you know, things in our life, we're setting them up to follow in our footprints.
100%.
Mhm. Mhm.
We so I feel like, and Amanda can touch on this as well, that's one of the areas that sometimes I'll struggle with, because there'll be times that we don't always agree,
No.
and so as much as I want her to see things my way, it doesn't always happen like that, and so we have disagreements, and sometimes those disagreements happen in an open forum because our
Mhm.
kids are around. It could be at the
Mhm.
dinner
Yeah.
table eating, and we're just having conversation, talking about something, and then we'll have a disagreement, and it could be a heated disagreement because it's something we feel very firmly about, whether it's her or myself.
Just go
And
ahead and say it like it is. Like if you would listen to her a little more often,
Yeah,
things
that's
would be a
right.
lot
Yeah.
smoother.
Or
That's
she would
right.
listen to you a little more
Yes.
often.
exactly,
then-
I
No,
know
it's
what's right.
happy.
No, but so I have to, because I don't always hold back. Sometimes I do, and then hindsight's 2020. You sit back and you looking like, man, what did they see? What
Mhm.
what did they just watch? Because the old song, "Oh little eyes, careful what you see, or careful your ears what you hear." Like
Yeah.
They're listening,
Yeah.
they're watching, they're seeing what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how we're talking to each other.
Mhm.
And that's what they're going to grow up to do.
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
What they see their parents do, more than likely, they will do when they're
Mhm.
married.
Well, and
So
that
you
br-
should bring me more flowers.
So that brings it to the flip side. We're gonna roll right through that stop sign. Okay, so I've had some single mothers and stuff, and even mothers talk to me, and I've told them, I'm like, look, how you allow somebody
Mhm.
to respond to you.
Mhm.
That means your daughter is going
Yes.
to see, and you ladies can weigh in on this, because if you are a doormat for somebody,
Mhm.
then your kids thinks it's okay to be a doormat.
Yep.
That's how mama was, and so I'm gonna be
Mhm.
a doormat.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree on that. Especially having like a teenage daughter as well. Because you want, like you look at Jared, I feel like he's a great dad and the way he shows love and stuff like that. So it's like I'm thankful because she gets to see normalcy, like, okay, this is how a guy should treat you because it's important in her life as well, for the guy that's going to come in hers. So I do like
I'm just
that
glad I
part.
have 2 boys.
Yeah, you
I don't
should
have
be
to
glad.
worry
You
about
should be
that.
I
glad.
can say because we do, or with Kendall being 16, it puts it in perspective from a
Mhm.
father standpoint. Because up at this time, I've never really had to worry about it, and
Right.
and I don't worry about it in the aspect of that we've taught our kids both to think for themselves and
Mhm.
we always put your winners, your winners, your winners. That way, they don't need somebody to feel good about
Yeah.
themselves. They
Yeah.
don't need the
Yes.
affirmation from somebody else to come in and validate what they think they are or aren't.
Right.
And so, but now that she's older, I see that the way I raised her, there's somebody's going to come in and that courtship or whatever is going to happen when she starts dating and after dating and when she goes to college, that she has seen a godly man. She has
Mhm.
seen a father, that I've become, and that she picks somebody or wants somebody like that
Right.
that doesn't take advantage of her, doesn't run her through the muck per se. And so all you could do is you set the standard and let your kids come in
Lead
and
from
follow
that,
that.
Mhm. I
Well,
agree.
and being that I believe speaking words of life over our kids is a big deal,
Mhm.
because that gives them the self-confidence and self-esteem
Yep.
that when she goes and she starts dating and stuff, she is not willing to settle
Right.
for anything less than this standard,
Yep.
because she knows the words that have been spoken over her and who
Yep.
she is in God, that I am worth this,
Oh, yeah.
and I
Mhm.
will not settle for anything less. It tears me up so much when ladies have been raised a certain way to think that they are less than
Mhm.
what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see it. I know y'all could probably speak a little bit better to this, but you see, especially in today's age, that women are kind of, they get talked to like they're second rate or second best
Mhm.
by certain guys, and you're like, man, you can have so much better for you, and you
Mhm.
deserve so much better. Nobody deserves to be treated, like that, or being talked to in a certain way. But it starts from the home. It starts from
Right.
parents teaching their kids, leaving their kids
Yeah.
what is an example, because that example, good or bad, you're teaching your kids.
Yes.
Or what is acceptable.
Yeah, and
Right.
those kids will grow up to be the sons that date somebody's daughters, and vice versa.
Right.
You know,
I
So
do agree.
I'm gonna shift things a little bit. I believe we should lead the example and set the example for our kids to follow. But okay, so let's go into kind of a disciplinary uh thing on our children and stuff. So like, how do you guys handle discipline things in your home? And then I'm gonna share also how we
Yeah.
do it in
No.
ours.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay.
I'm more the disciplinarian, but I do believe that the father should set that, because as a father, I believe you should set kind of some, like I say, rules, but there are rules that this is our house, and if everything is a privilege, and those
Yeah.
things can be taken from you, phones, cars, games, TV, all those things can be taken, but there's also, it's more than that, that if you make bad decisions, now there's consequences.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And as a parent, if I don't teach you and what those consequences are, and you don't have those consequences, Then you grow up to be teenagers that have gone through life in a childhood that have never had repercussions for bad decisions, and that's what you see in today's age, and why there is so much turmoil in the world today is
Right.
because parents haven't set an example and disciplined kids. Because, like the Bible says, you spoil the rod, spare the rod, you spoil the child. And I do believe, I'm not saying you beat your kids. That's, we don't do that, but I do believe there has to be consequences for, your
Yeah,
actions.
I do
Well,
agree.
and their accountability.
Mhm.
Accountability.
I mean, there has to be, because if you send them out in the world with no accountability at home, when they get in the world and they can't hold a job,
Mm-hmm.
they
Right.
can't handle life. They get, vehicles taken away and repossessed because there was no
They
there
don't
was
care.
no standard, there was
Mhm.
no consequences, and there was no
Mhm.
accountability in there. I know for like us, like I am also, I'm more of the disciplinarian one.
I'm more soft.
Yeah,
I'm more soft.
they run over her.
Me too.
Yeah.
They don't run over me, but
I feel like with moms, they know what they can get away with
Yeah,
too.
I
You
do
pull
agree
on
with
them
that.
heartstrings
they
a
know
little
they
bit.
can
They
get
do.
away with more.
They do. And I
Yeah.
do feel that since we have a boy and a girl, I am more harder on Kendall than he is. And then he's harder on Heath.
100%.
So I do think that it's something like, I guess it's a woman to girl
'cause that's-
thing.
that-
Like
that-
I know.
it's daddy's girl.
And then
Mhm.
he's real hard on Heath versus me.
Again,
So-
that's why I'm glad we have two boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like you push
Two
boys
boys.
too. Like
Yeah.
you want your boys
Yeah.
to be men, and sometimes this is a good example that I've learned from this, especially early on when we lived in California. I was coaching baseball out there, and I was super hard on Heath, like because I
Yes.
wanted him to be so good in baseball, but I wanted him to perform to a level that I thought in my head that he should perform to. So he's what 5, 6 years
Little.
old.
Very little.
And-
Very
6
little.
years old.
Yes, he
we're
was.
going out there and we have a baseball game, and he was always, back then still he was the best one on our team, and so if he'd mess up, he booted a ball after practice. We're staying lights. I keep the lights on. I'm the only one in the park, and I'm hitting ground balls to him, and I'm hitting with a fungo as hard as I can. Almost not as hard as I can, but
Yeah, rephrase
you get
that.
the
Yes,
you get to the
please
point
try.
like I'm hitting hard to him, like where you're gonna catch every ball, you're gonna do this. You made a mistake. I was so critical on all I ever did was capitalize on the mistakes he
Mhm.
made
Yeah,
instead of all the things he did that were good in that
Mhm.
game.
Yep.
yeah.
The singles, the doubles, the triples, the double play that he turns, the pitching that he did. I never did enough thanks and lifted him up enough on those things. It was always so critical on the wrong things, and I feel like I learned that, and I literally it was one day it just clicked, and I went and apologized to him, and because we'd go home, I'd make him get on his knees and we'd do hand drills.
Mama
for
would
30
save
minutes.
him though. I would go get him and say,
She
"We're done.
would.
We're done.
She
We're
would.
done.
For supper.
You're coming in, buddy. Let's go. Come on."
She would. She'd
Come on.
pull him out the garage, and
And he was
I'm
looking
like,
at me
"No, we
like,
gotta
"Should I
get-
go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you're coming."
He missed this, he missed that. So we got to get the practice in. And then one day, like I said, it clicked, and I realized just how bad of a father I was being because of that, how much hurt I was doing to him
Yeah.
and damage to him. Because in my mind, I was making him a better athlete, and I was making him, hard and all this. And in all reality, he was pulling away from me. He didn't want to spend time with me.
Mhm.
He didn't want to
Yeah.
come to bed. He was scared. Like he wouldn't even want to ride in the car. And it's I'm not ashamed to say it because I've learned. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's what growing as a parent and as a person in all aspects of life does is you learn
Yeah.
from your mistakes until I got to the point where it's just fun and everything we do. And so now we make memories, you know,
Yeah.
and there's still times we have to discipline
Yeah.
and we have to let them know, but it's out of love. Whereas back then I was doing it out of like my expectations, these that he would never meet. He couldn't meet the
Yeah.
expectations I'd set. They were, they're unrealistic. So
Yeah,
I
at
think
5
as
years
parents,
old, you're
Yeah.
not going into the
Oh,
draft.
yeah, so-
No.
and that's
No,
not yet, you know.
but you see it happening all over, and a lot of people they catch it so late in life, and by that time, sometimes your kids are older.
Yeah,
uh,
there's wedges driven.
Yeah.
and it does
absolutely.
create wedges. And if I wouldn't have caught it, I'd
Yeah.
have been that person with him, and we wouldn't have the relationship we have now.
And you said something I think that's really important. Most fathers, I mean, moms, it's easier because of their nature and everything, but most fathers never really have that time with their sons. Because I mean, I know I've had to do it before. I have, just Chase do something and I just go over the top on it, and Tabitha look at me and be like, "Really?"
That
Like,
wasn't necessary.
Yeah, he
Right.
was just
Yeah.
playing with a truck, and
Yeah.
and so as he's grown up, I've had to go several times and say, "Hey, look, man, I'm sorry. The way that I handled that
Yep.
was not
Mhm.
how I should have handled it."
And he
so-
does. He has apologized to him before
Yeah.
Yeah.
for being too over the top. I've apologized to him before.
And I believe
Yeah.
that's what most parents miss it though, because they'll do it, and then they'll realize they were wrong,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
they never go make that right with
Never
the
make it
child.
right, yeah.
Whether it's a pride deal, like I'm still his parent, like I don't
Yeah.
care.
But,
But
you're
it-
doing damage to
You're
him.
doing
You
damage
are.
to
or
him.
her.
You are.
Because at some point, that child is going to grow up and they're going to either resent you so much that they they do not want to be around you when they
Mhm.
get older, or they just cut off from reality
Mhm.
and they go into depression and you see it.
Well, and then you begin to start generational curses.
Mhm.
Right.
Because that's how my daddy treated me, so
Yep.
that's how I'm going
Yeah,
to treat my
yeah.
kid. And later on in life, you realize, when it's too late, that I should have did things different. But
Mhm.
now your kid is already training his kid to
Mhm.
be that same way.
Right.
Yep.
And one thing I know that we both do is it's very important after we correct them that we go back and show them that, look, we love you. We had to do this because you did this. I think that's very important that they know that, we love you, even though we had to do this. It's for your benefit in the
Mhm.
future.
Now that is one thing that we have always tried to do with Chase or Joa. Is okay. The discipline's coming,
Mhm.
but do you understand why
Yes.
you're getting disciplined?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like you cannot pitch a fit the way you did.
Right.
And one thing I do believe is, I don't believe that as moms you should throw all the responsibility over on the dad to be disciplined.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
you're seen as fun-loving mom,
Yep.
and we're always seen as
Big
mean
bad
old
Right.
dad.
Yep.
Right.
And there's been times in our relationship that Tabitha will look and Joe or Chase will mouth something off to Tabitha, and she's like, "Are you not going to do something?" And I'm like, "No, you need to do something."
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't always be the one to do it. I agree, they're wrong for what they did,
Right.
but you need to be the one to say, "You're not going to speak to me that way. I am your mother." And it not all. And I see a lot of times, wives and moms throw that responsibility over to the dad,
Mhm.
and it's not fair. It has to be an equal share that both are disciplinarians.
Right.
Yeah, you can't have. I think we talk about it a lot with each other. You can't have one more than the other because then
Right.
it creates, okay, well, dad's this way, I'm going to mom, or mom this
Mhm.
way, I'm running to dad, and so then they just run to whatever parent is going to get
Yes.
Yeah.
marriage is a team.
Yep.
Parenting is a team. So it's not 50-50, it's 100
Yep.
both ways, and both parents have to be bought in to being disciplinarians.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if the mother is, but the father's like, let him go, he's a boy, or that's what boys do, or
Yeah.
that's what
Right.
girls do, then you're creating those thought processes in those kids, like, okay, well, my dad's gonna let me do this, or my mom's gonna let me do it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
you're not getting when they get older, and you're wondering, oh, well, why they don't listen. Well,
Mhm.
you've taught them, that one
Yeah.
parent's always going to flow more than the
They
other.
figure out who to go
They do.
to.
Exactly.
One
Mhm.
thing we've always done is like if we do have to deal with something with our kids is we will sit there together
Mhm.
and talk to them. I
Mhm.
don't go in the bedroom by myself and talk to them and get on to them. She
Right.
doesn't. We go together, and they need to understand. Even though sometimes she may not agree, or she may
Mhm.
not, or I may not agree, we are going to be a united front in front of
Right.
them.
Yeah.
They're going to understand that mom and dad will not let this happen.
Mhm.
And I think that brings up a really good point that isn't in a lot of relationships today. It is. You're right. Dad will let me get by with this. Mom won't. Mom will let me get
Mhm.
by with this. Dad won't. And look, it doesn't take. They are a little con artist,
Mhm.
and
Right.
they know how
Yeah.
to play one off the other.
Oh, yeah.
And your relationship will wind up suffering because of it.
Yep.
Yep. Well, because then the enemy don't need much to get in, right? And not to get spiritual or anything like that. But it's so if there's a crack in the armor,
Mhm.
that's what he'll use to get in there.
Yeah.
And so parenting will flow into your marriage,
Yeah.
your relationship. And if you let it, it will divide it. And then once it's divided, then every little thing you'll catch yourself arguing. This will bother you, that'll bother you, and so you got to be careful that you are a united front, that you
Mhm.
are a team, and you work together
Right.
as a team.
Yeah, which is a really good transition point right there from parenting into arguing and communicating and resolving conflict between husband and wife.
Mhm.
Um, I believe one thing is we don't communicate enough together. Like Tabitha gets mad, boom, she shuts down. There's no more talking. She says she's counted to 3. She said her piece, and we're done with it.
I'm getting better. I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
And for me, it's like no. We haven't resolved anything.
Mhm.
And I see a lot of marriages are. It's almost like a tennis game. It's just back and forth. It's arguing.
Mhm.
And would you just shut up for 5 minutes and let me tell you why you're wrong and I'm right?
Right.
And if we're going to resolve conflict and because there is healthy argument,
Mhm.
like there's healthy conflict in a marriage. That's what brings you together is when you have conflict and you have to resolve the conflict.
Mhm.
But I think part of the problem that marriages suffer today is they don't know how to have healthy conflict.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's like with us. I think Jared is more of the shutdown as well.
Oh, I will.
He will shut down, and I'm a talker, and I need to talk it through, and I need to give my point, why we need to do this. So, Jared can definitely tell you that he is a guy
Oh,
that
I
shuts
do.
down.
I'll shut down because to me, so we had to relearn each other. So we went through this phase where after I graduated, I started working off. She was still in high school. I was working off. We became so accustomed to working off. Then I went out to California. She came out. They moved out for 5 years, and so we lived together. So it was 5 years. I was working, and that was kind of the first time in a while that we lived together. So we had to learn each other. Well, then she left again, come back home, and it was almost 3 years later. I came back home. Well, now I'm in my mid 30s, and we have to learn how to live together again because
Mhm.
I was so used to I was living on my own. We were kind of two different worlds.
It's almost the perfect relationship.
Yeah.
you know?
So
Yeah.
we got the best of it. I was coming home. Everything
Yeah.
was lovey-dovey. I'm gone.
Yeah.
A month and a half. I'm coming home again. And, we always had that. There was always that connection
Yeah.
there. There was always that, longing for each other. And so when I came home, it was a shock because I was still trying to live like I was away, like that
Away.
relationship, like still expected the same things, doing the same things. And it was unrealistic. I didn't see it in my head at the time, and she had to be the one to point it out to me. Like she had to sit me down. Jared, like this is your home now. Like this is unrealistic,
Yeah.
And so I had to realize that. And I did not like it, because, again, you got to learn to be able to take correction, in a relationship. And you got to be able to realize that you are wrong. And I know most men, we don't like being wrong.
Yeah.
We like being right all the time. And so we had to relearn how to communicate with each other, how to kind of live in the same house with each other. Like, okay, well, I've never hardly done dishes or clothes or anything because I'm in for a week or two.
Well, I don't know that we want to go on dishes
know?
and clothes
But-
and stuff.
but-
Yeah,
you
but
know,
no, what I'm saying is,
No, we got to tag
it was
team.
always that
Like,
expectation.
Kevin doesn't do dishes and clothes, Jared.
Well-
so be careful.
Well, now
be careful.
So it's a little different.
Well.
now that
Don't make me look bad.
No, but now that I work from home, I find myself where I wasn't at first, and she pointed out like, hey, when you're home, can you
Mhm.
this? And then I got it in my head like, okay, well, I can do that for her because that's one less thing she has to do when she comes home trying to run 2 businesses. Is I got the dishes washed, which is the dishwasher, and then I can
Which is good.
I can put the clothes in the washer, dry, bring them out, fold them, do all that. I can do that because I can. That's a way I can help, and that's kind of her love language
That is her love
acts of
language.
service and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
So it works
So
out.
I believe that's another good thing that in relationships people can do
Yeah,
is
knowing the love language.
love
that
language
is so
is
important.
a
it's
big-
very
Yes.
important
thing.
because you know where your spouse or your significant other where they're
Yeah.
needing that.
Other
Yes.
than that, one of you speaking French and the other one speaking German, and there
Right.
ain't nothing getting done.
No.
It's true.
So,
It is
like
true.
for y'all, like I know when we were young in marriage, like we had some good knockdown
Mhm.
dragouts, like
Very good, very
face
good
to
ones.
face, hollering and screaming. I remember one
I think
time.
I threw a phone at you
Yes,
one time.
hit look, I mean, we knew how to fight, but we didn't accomplish anything.
Yeah.
Right.
What was it? I mean, I could just see
Okay.
Amanda
you
like
want-
that
I'll
bullet
let-
I'll
personality.
let
I'm
Amanda
coming
talk
at
on-
you.
Take that
I
one first.
personally,
No.
though, like our first year, I'm gonna be very honest. I really didn't know how to do much as like a housewife. I didn't even know how to cook. So our first year of marriage, I think we were in
Still
counseling.
working
Still
on
working
that.
on that.
Still working on that.
But our first
Still
year
working on
of marriage,
that.
we were literally in counseling with his parents all the time, like once a week, because we had to learn. Like he wanted me to do little things that were normal, and he wanted me to do this, and I'm like, okay, we got to figure this out. I mean, we're coming straight out of high school, like we got to learn how to be a team.
And you gotta preface it too, so everybody knows that I was a mama's boy.
Yes, he
So
was.
Really?
My mom did
Nobody
everything.
knew.
Like,
So was
Everything.
Kevin.
yeah, so
So was
Everything.
Kevin.
I had
Hashtag love you, mom.
Yeah.
Yes,
I know
yes.
Killer Joe's watching. So
And I love my mother-in-law.
I had these expectations that mom had my food ready at a certain time.
Yeah.
Food needs to be ready. Mom had my clothes a certain way.
She baked
It
a
had to
cake a
be
certain way.
A certain cake. And I would say these things, not realizing I'm doing damage to her because she's
Yeah.
not. You know, it was unrealistic
Yeah.
expectations
Yeah.
of my wife.
Yeah. So I feel like, it was not perfect, but I'll be honest with you. Then he worked off. So I kind of feel that whenever he worked off, it was kind of like that fairy tale. He only came home so often. So we didn't fight a whole bunch. I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. I'll be really truthful. I
Yeah.
feel like this past year, we learned how to live together. So I feel like we did more fighting probably this last year,
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to live together for
Yeah.
the rest of our
But
life.
like you said earlier,
But
conflict is healthy if
Yeah.
done in the right way because
Yes.
conflict also builds you. I mean, you need
Well,
that.
yeah.
The whole thing that makes a movie is conflict between the characters. That's
Right.
what draws you into
Absolutely.
it. Otherwise, we wouldn't watch TV.
Yep.
Yeah.
But when there's healthy conflict,
Mhm.
it brings you together.
Right.
I mean, after Tabatha threw the phone at my head,
That was 16 years ago.
I
Just for the
learned.
record.
don't say that like that again.
Yeah.
But so like now, when there's problems, because I mean, look, it's not a bed of roses.
Right.
She doesn't listen oftentimes,
It's all
And-
my fault.
It
All your
happens.
fault.
It happens.
and life would be better,
Yep.
I guess, if I would or if she would. But so now, instead of fighting and arguing, we will get mad, but it's controlled.
Mm-hmm.
It is talking. It is not hollering and
Mhm.
screaming.
One doesn't leave the room while the other one just shuts down. We actually communicate with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And so before, when our kids were really young, they saw one thing, but now they're seeing how to have healthy communication. That,
Mhm.
okay, look,
Mhm.
why did you forget to pay the bills? The light bill.
Right.
Well, it was in my vehicle, and you called me and wanted supper cooked at 6 o'clock, so I didn't have time to do it.
Yeah.
It's okay. Now I understand why. Before it was just blow up, and I can't
Yeah.
believe you didn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's communication on that end, and it is. Okay, well, how could I better help you?
Mhm.
If I do want supper at 6 o'clock, then
Mhm.
maybe I need to be the one to take care of going
Yeah.
to the bank or doing
Right.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit different with us because I stay home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't expect him to come home from a hard day of work and do the dishes
Exactly.
Right.
because I'm home
Yeah.
all day.
Ladies,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's
And
where,
I will
yeah.
But
say,
it's different
when
if you work.
I agree.
If both spouses work. then
Whenever-
you have to do a little give and take
You
there.
do.
Absolutely. When I stayed home for 9 years, I assure you had meal every day at 3 o'clock
Yep.
whenever he got home. So I did do those things. But now that we both
Yeah,
work,
and
we
that
kind
was
of tag
part of
team on that one.
the relearning because for a while she was a stay-at-home mom,
Mhm.
and then when now you're running multiple businesses, doing things,
Yeah.
and that stay-at-home mom, you're not there no more.
Mhm.
Right.
Now she has just as much responsibility as me. It doesn't matter, and I think guys, and this help out a lot of men because men think because I do such a rugged job. Look, I've hung from helicopters
yeah,
on the side of them, done all these things. You think that, what I do is way more important because it's harder than what you do. And so we downplay the role of our
Yeah.
spouse. And there again, it brings a wedge. Instead of realizing that I work, you work, doesn't matter what I do, doesn't matter what you do. We're both pulling each other. You have a part in this relationship. I have a part. If you need help, I'm there to help you. If
Well,
I need help, she's
it's
there.
a team.
Right.
It's
100%.
not. I tell so many couples, you're not on opposite basketball
Mm-mm.
teams
Right.
trying to see who's going to win.
Yep.
You're on the same team.
Get
The only
together.
problem is men score different than women.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So a man, he will pick up his dirty laundry off the floor and put it in the basket. He
Will
says,
they though? Will they?
He says, in his mind, it is,
Yep.
I just earned 4,000 points.
Look what I
Right.
did.
So you need to catch up to my 4,000 points. With ladies, it is, you picked your clothes up. That's 1 point.
Mhm. One.
And
Yeah.
so,
One
you know, you have to get on the same page
It's
with
true.
how each of you think and operate,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and you got to remember we're on the same team.
I always tell Jared too, like if we were in disagreement, I'm like, okay, listen, we are fighting an issue that's the issue, not us. Like
Yeah.
we need to work through the problem. Like that's the problem, not us. We're
Mhm.
just fighting against each other. And sometimes the enemy will come in just for you to fight against each other
Mhm.
whenever it's the middle part. And you're like, okay, wait, we can handle that.
Yeah.
Like
that's-
let's fight that,
Yeah.
That's a
not
good-
each other.
That's a good point because we make it personal.
Yes.
We
Right.
may have an issue about bills or finances because in the big scheme of marriages, finances is a huge deal. I mean, it's one of the number one causes of divorce and stuff like that is your finances. So, but what happens is we could be talking about finances or how we disciplined our kids or this they did, so I need to go handle this. And instead of the issue being about that, then it becomes, oh, hey, why don't you don't handle it this way or why don't we do this?
Mhm.
And then I go into attack mode. Don't talk to me that way.
Yeah.
Don't tell me how to do things.
Yeah.
And now we swap from this
The
is
issue,
what
yeah.
our issue was, and we made it personal.
Yeah.
And now we have this conflict that's still there and it's going to be there, but now we have to deal with this conflict
Mhm.
on top of this conflict.
Yeah.
And now we usually start throwing slurs at each other, and then that creates other conflicts. Before you know it, we just have this bracket and this umbrella of problems that we just opened up that we didn't have to
Mhm.
Yeah.
because we didn't handle the
This is-
problem
yeah.
right.
Mhm.
And that goes back to growth. You
Mhm.
have to be able to grow, and you have to be able to know when you're wrong. As a man, you got to suck up the pride and know when you're wrong, which we have a hard time doing. And I believe the same goes for the
Women.
wife.
Mhm.
Have to know when you're wrong and like,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
my husband's
women are full
Yeah.
of pride too. I
You-
mean, don't
Yeah.
let them have no
Yeah.
slack on it.
100%, and so it has to. Each person has to recognize that, and that comes in growing with each other
Mhm.
and growing in your relationship. And if you can't do that, well, then you're not going to have a healthy relationship because there it all goes back
Yeah.
to conflict can be healthy. It's good for you because you grow, and now
Mhm.
you learn. Hey, I conquered this. What we thought was so big,
Yeah.
and we worked
Mhm.
through it. Now we go to the next thing that looked like a
And
mountain, and
There-
it's not
yeah.
as
Yeah.
high
There's
because
always another one.
Yes.
we're going gradually going up in levels.
Until
Right.
you die, you will always have conflict.
Yep.
And if you can get on the same page and conquer that together and be victorious together, you're high fiving each other and
Right.
stuff. You're drawing closer together. But you got to remember, there's an enemy involved also that does not hit. The enemy
Mhm.
is about
Mhm.
kill, steal, and
Absolutely.
destroy.
Mhm.
God is about bringing things together and restoration and stuff. But the enemy is about steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah.
And not that he might, it's that's what he
He
does.
won't- yeah.
And so when the Bible talks about, a man will leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and they will cling to each other and they will become one. I think a lot of relationships, we're not one.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Right.
No, we most definitely aren't. The society we live in has created this okayness that it's okay to be by yourself or do it by yourself.
Yeah.
That you don't need the man,
Yeah.
you don't need the woman, you don't need your significant other, your spouse. That you can do it on your own. And so it's so easy to throw in the towel when things get hard, and the water's kind of coming, the waves are pushing up against you. It's so easy to say, you know what, I'm dipping, I'm out. You
Mhm.
know, and it's hard
Yeah.
to make a commitment and stick with that commitment. Say, you know what, through hell and high water, we're going to make it. We're going to come out of this better than what we went in it.
Well,
Right.
and a society that we're not committed to anything.
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
And look, my hat's off to anybody who is a single parent. Like it's hard enough to do parenting
Mhm.
and stuff by yourself,
Mhm.
with a spouse,
Mm-hmm.
much less by yourself.
That's hard.
But at the end of the day, it still boils down to what are we leading them?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What example are we setting that they can follow? Am I teaching them how to be just a good worker, or am I teaching them how to be a good God follower?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then how does my spouse play into that? When we do have conflict, once again, in that conflict, I'm teaching.
Right.
Everything we do with our kids is teaching. And so, when am I resolving this conflict healthy, or are we just fighting and
Mhm.
there's always turmoil in the house? Because kids sense that.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
They
Right.
pick up on that. They pick up on when this house isn't steady and isn't built on the rock. They sense that. And so we've got 5 minutes here before we wrap up and everything. And I want to thank you guys for coming on. I know this wasn't the easiest thing, and I appreciate it. I hope that you guys gain something from this. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on and stuff. Let us know if you enjoy it. Let us know if you're enjoying the Fuel the Fire series that we're doing. We're going to continue them on. And look, if you want to see more of Tabatha and Amanda, hit them up on Facebook and say we told them we was gonna try to get them some questions or something. Hit them up. Let us know. But we hope that you guys gain something out of this. I know personally, I mean, just going back through this, I mean, it's reminded me of things in our marriage that Tabatha needs to work on a little bit more.
It's
Of
always
course
me.
Yeah. But I think it's good for everybody. So
Yeah.
part of doing this is to show everybody that from the top, you
Yeah.
know, that's how you lead. And you got to lead by example. And that starts from the top. And everybody has problems. Everybody has issues.
Mhm.
Everybody has questions on how to do things. Don't feel like you don't have a voice or an outlet
Yeah.
to. That's what this is, an outlet to show everybody. Everybody has problems. Everybody has
Yeah,
issues.
we're not
How
perfect
you
either.
work through those issues is
Mhm.
determines how far in life you're going to get
Absolutely.
in your own life, in your personal life, and in your marriage, in your relationship, and with your kids.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. Everybody give a good goodbye. We'll see you guys later.
Bye,
We're signing
guys.
off.
Bye.
Later.